Ceasefire in 3D. So what's going on here? I might describe this as the results of a stupid man who had an idea to go to a war zone and make a movie about a war starring the very soldiers that were still actively fighting that war in fabulous 3D. They're shooting real guns, real bullets, setting off real explosions, all within 3 miles of a very active front line. Can you imagine being the soldier asked to play the enemy in this scenario? Apparently, there were no production injuries, but it wasn't from a lack of trying. One soldier related that he assumed it was some kind of training film until he received an invite to its premiere the following year. Now, the very idea of producing a movie in this manner almost escaped words. I just found myself kept thinking bonkers, absolutely bonkers. But it gets worse. One of the soldiers who played soldiers in this movie complained during production that making this movie was keeping him from returning to his actual squad. After a while, the director gave in to his complaints and rearranged the shooting schedule so he could get his parts done early and return to his unit. This put him in the famous Pork Chop Hill battle, where he died just a few days after shooting this movie. Later, when the movie came out, there was also the uncomfortable realization that his mother would see her son for the last time being blown up on screen in fabulous 3D. Apparently, she herself would die the following year, and it was suggested it was a death brought on by grief. We read that director would openly wonder if he hadn't relented, would the fellow remain alive? This account was published in newspapers of the day. These are not secrets unearthed years later, but this was public knowledge and part of the public discussion at the time. I'm going to come back to that later. Now, apparently after its initial release, it was never seen again until the late 90s when it started showing up on old movie television. And later, this would be restored to its original 3D by the 3D Film Archive, who are doing wonders and bringing 3D history back. There's no significant extras on the disc. The package advertises an essay as one of its features. But when you actually select it on the menu, and I was expecting some kind of narration, perhaps a slideshow, rather, you actually get a message box giving you a website URL. Now, that essay, I think, is required companion reading, so it's a good thing, and I appreciate that they took the time to write it, but it's disingenuous to say it's on the disc when it really isn't. As for the 3D, not sure you'd pick this up for a 3D fix, and it's a bit of a mixed bag, but there are many shots that are very effective. They did use good cameras at the time, and I suppose it is a unique picture inside a genuine war zone. And the 3D is very good when things are at an appropriate space from the camera. There are many shots that are flat because they're archival footage or are filmed too far away for the 3D to have any significant effect. But it's usually very effective. There's some silly shots with a tank barrel stuck right at the camera, which in any other movie would be fun, but here the circus theatrics felt uncomfortable, especially knowing the backstory. Story-wise, the movie is unremarkable, and it would have been far more effective if it were produced in a traditional way with actors. The mud and sand could have been shot anywhere, and it's awkward watching men being forced to lumber through drama class on what may have been their last day of life. Now, I have no place to assess what 1953 considered a good idea, but looking at the movie poster with the various soldiers' faces plastered on the marquee, I am struck by what an absolute and total sacrifice it is to be a soldier. It's truly giving up your life in any way a superior can imagine they need it given up for, be it to get up a hill or be paraded for the curiosity of onlookers. It gave me pause to consider that having a say in your own reputation is actually a luxury. Now, the articles of the day touted this movie as being a potential movie of the year, Oscar worthy. Brass lined up to offer public accolades. And as I mentioned, this isn't a good movie. There are other movies around this time that are classics today. And this, by comparison, is an amateur effort. So it leaves me thinking, well, it's some type of propaganda. But what effect was this meant to have? You learn nothing about the war. There's no mention of communism, recruitment. How so? Nobody wins. There's nothing glorious. Soldiers are miserable and homesick. This does not glorify war, so why does it exist? I think the purpose of the movie is revealed in its title, Cease Fire. I think the military produced its own anti-war movie in an attempt to sell the idea of a divided Korea to the American public. Why else would you publish the story about that mother? Why else would you use real people in the movie? It makes people uncomfortable. They want it to go away. And I think the story of this bonkers director's ambition was probably just a cover story. This was skilled and surgical propaganda for the day. Might explain why the film quietly disappeared after.